Hi, everyone. So, as Joanne said, I'm going to talk to you about Project Slingshot. So, I just want to talk to you today about a project that really encompasses the work of quite a lot of departments, from user research, product, engineering, and analytics. So, do you remember to do that? Okay, so at the end of last year, our competition were really taking risks, being innovative, and we wanted to make sure that we continue to improve our product experience for our customer, to make sure that we stay relevant and ahead of our competitors. And so Project Slingshot was born, with the main aim of catching up with and accelerating past our competitors in terms of product experience. So our leadership team gave us a really big challenge to make some key, visible, large changes in a 6-month period, with some obvious deliverables by the end of H1. So that meant that the teams involved had to be bold in their decision-making and actually take some risks to really slingshot us past our competitors. So to give you a quick idea of where we were in Q4 last year compared to one of our main competitors, UberEats, here are the screenshots of our home and search screens, so you can really see the big differences between both brands. Just Eat, our home screen, simple, basic, pretty boring. In comparison to UberEats, who are using imagery and personalization across pretty much their whole product. Just Eat, we feel, was very clinical and transactional, and really a big opportunity area for Project Slingshot to solve this problem. So to understand our main problem area, we had a large piece of user research work done where the UK team interviewed a panel of power users of both brands, Just Eat and UberEats. From this, questions around the ease of use of each screen on the app were asked around both brands. And then from this, scorecard questions for each screen were averaged across all of the participants that took part. And then each screen was given an ease of use score for us to measure ourselves against our competitor. So it's a little bit difficult to read, so I'll just explain it. So each one here is the screen, so you've got homepage, the search, menu, basket, and so on. And you can see the ease of use, and you can see how Just Eat were quite far behind in a lot of areas. We also gathered responses through the interviews to get contextual problem areas as well for our product managers and analysts to really delve in deeper and look at further analysis to later form our hypotheses. So now we have our problem areas, but we really wanted to, actually I'll go back. So we had some of our problem areas, and just to explain a couple of them. So recommendations, for example, that really encompass things like personalizing our options based on a customer's previous orders, or offering new restaurant options based on similar customer cohorts. Another really key one was the visual aesthetic. As we saw in the previous slide, Just Eat was a really boring platform, and using imagery and updating our brand personality was quite key. Yeah, so now we have our focus areas and got our key problems. But one thing that we really needed to do was to make sure that our teams were structured in a way to really be agile and efficient to achieve this goal. So what we did was set up vertical teams. So for example, for the home screen improvements, we created a home vertical where the product manager would lead a team of UX, delivery managers, engineering, and then the analytics team kind of paired up with 2 or 3 different verticals to then support. And this was a really big restructure for the company, and a really big change for a lot of teams, but probably one of the best ones because it meant teams could work together, collaborate much more easily, and really work together to achieve one goal. So the next question was, how are we closing that gap? So every decision and product change was made via experimentation. So our product managers were creating iterative experiments to continuously improve our product and release features based on the learnings of these tests. So to give you an idea of how we as analysts were working with our product managers, as I said, we had key problem areas from the user research. and that led to discovery questions where the analysts would then look at data around similar features that we had in other markets, or look at the customer flow to find any key pain points. And then this analysis was used to form our hypotheses. So once we had a strong hypothesis, the next step was to build the test, build our variants, and at this stage we worked very closely with the product managers and our implementation team. So at this stage we really wanted to make sure the experiment was set up correctly, and all our tracking was in place to make sure that we can measure the performance of our tests. Next, the experiment was set to live, and at this stage the analyst would set up a reporting dashboard to just keep track of performance, but also make sure that the data is correct and there weren't any anomalies in any of the bucketing or any of the kind of key test metrics. So once the sample size had been reached for the test, we would make a call based on the outcome of the test on whether we want to roll that feature out to 100% of traffic, or whether we want to further iterate on that test and kind of refine it going forward. So to understand the full impact and really give a measure to the whole project, the company focused on one main metric, and that was order frequency. So I'll go into more detail around that in the next slide, but assuming our order frequency had a significant uplift, that uplift was then used to calculate an annual incremental growth in orders for us to present back to the business and really give some value to what we're doing. So, as I said, how are we measuring the impact? So our main metric was order frequency. We were really keen to show the value of experimentation, and so having one main metric allowed us to do three things. The first, to have a real concrete figure to show the business the value that we're adding with the experiments and this project. The second was to provide consistency between all the tests, so we were able to really size the bigger opportunities and the drivers if we wanted to globalize these features out. And then the final one was really to just make it a lot easier for the business to understand what it is that we're doing, so that they can really buy into the world of experimentation. So why order frequency? So the UK market is very saturated for Just Eat. We cover a lot of areas in the country, and there's really a limited amount of new reach that we can get. So a large base of our customers are returning customers, and so our conversion rate and reorder rates are already really high. So moving the needle on both of these two metrics is really difficult. And so we thought that order frequency really nicely rolls up conversion rate and reorder rate into one neat metric and ties directly to order growth, which is something that we can really present back to the business and show the value that we're adding. That being said, for every experiment that we were running, we made sure that product managers and analysts were aware that each experiment should have its own primary metric, whether that is order frequency or conversion rate, click-through rate, and so on, depending on the type of experiment that we're running. So now we've got how we're going to close the gap and the measure that we're going to use. So the next question was, how are we going to really let the business know? So we came up with quite a clear comms program, which I think works really well. The first one was a weekly huddle. So all the product managers, all the analysts would come together for a weekly huddle, and we'd present back the key things that we'd been up to the previous week, any experiment wins, and what we'd be up to for the next week, as well as an update on the impact numbers. The next one was a monthly huddle. So this was like a whole day out. Again, all the product managers' teams, and this actually involved a lot of the UX, a lot of the dev teams and the analysts all getting together, and again, really like understanding what our next roadmap is for the next few months. And then the final thing was a series of ad hoc communications. So whenever we were ready to release a feature, the product managers would make sure that the whole company was aware of what was going on. So comms would go out with experiment results, screenshots of the changes that they're going to be seeing in their product, And all of these things really help to kind of get the whole company behind this pretty awesome project, and really get behind experimentation as well. So to give you an idea of some of the things that we have achieved in the first half of the year, these are the design changes released on iOS for our home screen. So you can see some of the key changes. There's a lot more that went into this than the 4 listed, but those are the ones I'll go through. So the first is the new header with image and branded rays. This really helped to modernize our app, bring it up to date, and just give that brand personality that we wanted to. The next is the slim search bar. So as you can see, we had pretty clunky search bar, and we've really streamlined that to make sure that we can have space for more content for our customers. The next was introducing a personalization component. So we introduced a component where customers can see their previous order history and very quickly and easily reorder that same list of items from the same restaurant. And then the final change was to really introduce some back-end changes to allow for more personalized content components. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of free estate there, and that's going to be used later down the line as we continue the good work to introduce more personalized content for our customer. So with all these improvements and changes, as well as our key metric, which was order frequency, we really did want to see how far we'd come in terms of closing our gap between our competitor. So as I showed you before, at the end of 2017, this is where we looked. We were quite far behind in terms of a lot of our screens on our product. And then through several iterations of experiments, we also conducted the same interview process with a panel of users in June 2018. And as you can see, we're definitely showing a positive improvement in closing that gap, which was great news for all of us. But as we know, there's always still more work to do. So we really want to continue the good work that we're doing and keep going with the success of Slingshot. So for me, some of the key learnings were, we had quite a lot of key learnings, but in terms of the success of Project Slingshot, there were some key things that we wanted to continue into future projects and some things that we really wanted to change from the learnings that we found. So the first was the new team structure. This really worked really well in terms of working in verticals. It brought teams together. It meant that teams were able to be flexible and really have ownership on what it is that they're working on. And so what we've done now is we've expanded this process and this method to other product areas as we continue to build on what we've done with Slingshot. The next was the comms program. So with the weekly huddles and the monthly forums, it was a great way to really update our team, but the leadership team, and actually the whole business. But also it was a real great chance for us to celebrate wins. Luca will tell you all about celebrating wins, I'm sure. Woo! And it also just meant that the teams could come together and really feel that they're part of something that's changing what Just Eat are doing. So something that we wanted to change slightly. So now that we really had a strong foundation, we've done some big experiments and some big risky moves with Slingshot. So what we wanted to do now, now that we've got the features and components in place, to really take on some smaller iterative experiments to really refine those features and just improve and optimize that experience for our customer. And then finally, as analysts, we want to know all the information. We want to be involved from the end-to-end process. And so as a team, we've now consciously made sure that we're integrating in different parts of the process, whether that's user research sessions, experimentation meetings, and so on. So that's a really speedy tour of Project Slingshot, why it came about, why we really wanted the whole company to get behind it, and some of the key learnings and successes that we found. And that's it from me, so if you have any questions.